Then I suggest we call that law temporal law, which, though just, can be justly changed in course of time, by all means. Will not any intelligent man regard that law as unchangeable and eternal, which is termed the law of reason? We must always obey it. It is the law through which wicked men deserve an unhappy, and good men a happy life, and through which the law we have said should be called temporal is rightly decreed and rightly changed. Can it ever be unjust that the wicked should be unhappy and the good happy, or that a well-disciplined people should be self-governing while an ill-disciplined people should be deprived of this privilege? I see that this law is eternal and unchangeable. I think you also see that men derive all that is just and lawful in temporal law from eternal law. For if a nation is justly self-governing at one time and justly not self-governing at another time, the justice of this temporal change is derived from that eternal principle by which it is always right for a disciplined people to be self-governing, but not a people that is undisciplined. Do you agree? I agree. Therefore, to explain shortly as far as I can the notion which is impressed on us of eternal law, it is the law by which it is just that everything should have its due order. Tell me if you disagree. I have nothing to say against this. It is true. Since there is this single law from which all temporal laws for human government derive their various forms, I suppose it cannot itself be varied. I see that it is quite impossible. No power, no circumstances, no calamity can ever make it unjust that everything should have its due and perfect order. And I turned my attention to the nature of the mind, but the false opinions which I entertained of spiritual things prevented me from seeing the truth. And whereas in virtue I loved peace, and in viciousness I hated discord, in the former I distinguished unity, but in the latter a kind of division. And in that unity I conceived the rational soul and the nature of truth and of the chief good to consist. But in this division I, unfortunate one, imagined there was I know not what substance of irrational life, and the nature of the chief evil, which should not be a substance only, but real life also, and yet not emanating from Thee, O my God, from whom are all things. And yet the first I called a monad, as if it had been a soul without sex, but the other a duad, angry in deeds of violence, in deeds of passion, lust, not knowing of what I talked. For I had not known or learned that neither was evil a substance, nor our soul that chief and unchangeable good. And it was made clear unto me that those things are good, which yet are corrupted, which, neither were they supremely good, nor unless they were good, could be corrupted, because if supremely good they were incorruptible, and if not good at all, there were nothing in them to be corrupted. For corruption harms, but unless it could diminish goodness, it could not harm. Either then corruption harms not, which cannot be. Or, what is most certain, all which is corrupted is deprived of good. But if they be deprived of all good, they will cease to be. For if they be, and cannot be at all corrupted, they will become better, because they shall remain incorruptibly. And what more monstrous to assert than that those things which have lost all their goodness are made better? Therefore, if they shall be deprived of all good, they shall no longer be. So long, therefore, as they are good. Therefore, whatsoever is good. That evil then, which I sought whence it was, is not any substance, for were it a substance, it would be good. For either it would be an incorruptible substance, and so a chief good, or a corruptible substance, which, unless it were good, it could not be corrupted. I perceived, therefore, and it was made clear to me that thou didst make all things good, nor is there any substance at all which was not made by thee. And because all that thou hast made are not equal, therefore all things are, because individually they are good, and altogether very good, because our God made all things very good. There is no wholesomeness in them whom aught of thy creation displeaseth, no more than there was in me when many things which thou madest displeased me. And because my soul dared not be displeased at my God, it would not suffer aught to be thine which displeased it. Hence it had gone into the opinion of two substances, and resisted not, but talked foolishly. And I looked back on other things, and I perceived that it was to thee they owed their being, and that they were all bounded in thee, but in another way, not as being in space, but because thou holdest all things in thine hand in truth. And all things are true, so far as they have a being. Nor is there any falsehood, unless that which is not is thought to be. And I saw that all things harmonized, not with their places only, but with their seasons also. And that thou, who only art eternal, didst not begin to work after innumerable spaces of times, for that all spaces of times, both those which have passed and all which shall pass, neither go nor come, save through thee working and abiding. And most certain was I that thy invisible things from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even thy eternal power and Godhead. For, inquiring whence it was that I admired the beauty of bodies, whether celestial or terrestrial, and what supported me in judging correctly on things mutable, and pronouncing this should be thus, this should not, Inquiring then whence I so judged, seeing I did so judge, I had found the unchangeable and true eternity of truth above my changeable mind, and thus by degrees I passed from bodies to the soul, which makes use of the senses of the body to perceive, and thence to its inward faculty, to which the bodily senses represent outward things, and up to which reach the capabilities of beasts. And thence again I passed on to the reasoning faculty, unto which whatever is received from the senses of the body is referred to be judged, which also, finding itself to be variable in me, raised itself up to its own intelligence, and from habit drew away my thoughts, withdrawing itself from the crowds of contradictory phantasms, that so it might found out that light by which it was besprinkled, when, without all doubting, it cried out that the changeable was to be preferred before the unchangeable was to be preferred before the changeable, whence also it knew that unchangeable, which, unless it had in some way known, it could have had no sure ground for preferring it to the changeable, and thus, with a flash of a trembling glance, it arrived at that which is. And then I saw thy invisible things understood by the things that are made.